Concerned about the treatment of their toddler at a San Antonio daycare, a husband and a wife sewed a recording device into their kid's jacket.
The audio then captured employees using profane language and one even threatening to harm kids in her care.
How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about a crazy story coming out of San Antonio, Texas, involving parents that sent their child to a daycare center, and they began to notice some very odd behavior from their child when they would come back from the daycare, being violent, being very aggressive. So they decided to do a little bit of investigative journalism, and what they found was very, very shocking. And before I go any further, let's roll the clip. In this clip, you're going to see a lot more context and hear some very disturbing audio. If you want to hear this clip in full without my commentary, link, as always, will be in the description box. If you're on IG, visit the link in the bio, go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
Concerned about the treatment of their toddler at a San Antonio daycare, a husband and a wife sewed a recording device into their kid's jacket.
The audio then captured employees using profane language and one even threatening to harm kids in her care.
I'm gonna go and I'm gonna beat both of y'all. That's what I'm gonna do. You're
KSAT investigates the stunning recordings and the fallout for all sides involved. Here's Dylan Collier.
Just weeks after enrolling their daughter at Moss Rock KinderCare last fall, Aaron and Carly Hernandez noticed a drastic change in their 1.5-year-old's behavior.
She had started being really violent, hitting, kicking, screaming.
After witnessing an employee refusing to give her child water, Carly took a page from a spy novel and in December sewed this small recording device into her daughter's fur jacket.
Very smart, right away, intelligent.
For nearly 7 hours, it recorded 2 employees of the Early Childhood Learning Center cursing. One of them repeatedly berated the Hernandez's toddler and other small children inside the facility.
You're nasty. I'm about to throw some sweet for some of y'all right now. Touch it and you die. Now stop combining for just for her. Just gonna wait for me because I will end up in jail.
Aaron had anticipated nothing much being recorded by the device.
Now let's pause right here. Elephant in the room. Some kids are bad when they come to a daycare. That's never an excuse to behave that way that was recorded on the audio. That's not how you go about it. I'm not saying their child is bad, but some kids are. And again, that's no excuse to behave that way. Not at all.
But after the couple downloaded the audio files,
first thing that she said to me was, "We're not sending her back there." Yeah. And she had tears in her eyes.
I just felt really deceived and just devastated for my child.
Carly reported the employees to the San Antonio Police Department and Child Protective Services. Both agencies said their investigations are ongoing. Detectives in particular are looking into whether the recordings constitute terroristic threats.
Wow.
Neither woman has been criminally charged. At least one group, the National Association for the Education of Young Children, is no longer accrediting the location as of late February. Staff at the daycare declined to speak to KSAT and instead referred us to immediate contact for their parent company.
Thank you for calling KinderCare Education.
Shortly after reaching its voicemail, KSAT received an email statement from KinderCare calling the employee's behavior unacceptable and that both women will never work for KinderCare or any of its brands again.
I trusted these people, and I don't know when I'm going to be able to do that again.
For KSAT Investigates, I'm Dylan Collier.
Yeah, it's pretty rough out here. A lot of these daycare centers, it's pretty rough. I have quite a bit to say about that. Let's come back so you can see me clearly. Yeah, no excuse for that kind of behavior. I know some kids are bad, but still, you got to be able to understand how to deal with children and not be threatening them, yelling and all that kind of stuff, aggressive tones. That's not really how you go. That's not how you go about it. Not in a daycare, especially. That's not what the parents send their children there for. And if you have kids that are bad and unruly or whatever, you alert the parents and maybe you refuse the service. You can't just be in there behaving that way. Because, and the reason why I keep talking about that is I know people are going to say, well, hey, man, some of these kids are crazy. No excuse. First. Second, I've heard about worse, actually. There was a story that I didn't even cover because it was so bad where it was a husband and wife. I think they had a charter or a daycare. It was something like this. I'm not sure if they had really like little babies or whatever, but they were children there. And the husband was allegedly assaulting the children. Okay. And then the wife shot the husband and got locked up for it. And she's like, hey, well, I had to protect the babies. You know, we were in this together and then you violated the trust. That was a pretty bad story. I've been to quite a few daycares in my life, never as a baby, like an infant. When I was a baby, infant, toddler, my mom was a stay-at-home mom with my dad when they were married. As far as I know, I think once they got separated, then the daycare stuff happened. But by that time, I was already like probably about 4 or 5 years old. And even at that point, I had babysitters. But I've seen quite a few things, though. I was at one babysitter's house where it was, well, I ain't going to tell that story. That story I can't tell because people, they're going to know that story. I'm going to tell a different story. Babysitters and daycares and whatnot are different. I was at one babysitter where the lady was just crazy, super violent. Not violent and aggressive, I'm going to fight you way, but her only tone was loud. Her only tone was loud and just aggressive. Yeah, I didn't like that too much. But by that time, I was old enough to understand what was going on. And I told my mom, I was like, look, we can't go back there no more. I was a mature kid. I'm like, yo, that ain't really going to work. She's too much. And then I was only there for about a week. It wasn't really too long. You know, you got one of them hood daycares. That whole thing wasn't going. I see some of the memes on TikTok where, hey, it's real cheap in this hood. I can't do it. I've been to other daycare centers. I think I've been to a kindergarten. I've been to quite a few of those, like after school. You know the whole thing where, okay, it's 3 o'clock. Your mom's still at work. Okay, you stay there until your mom come get you from work, that type of thing. And usually they're pretty cool. You get a little snack and might do your homework, that type of thing. And it's cool. But there are some ones that are really bad, especially when you don't pay that much money. From what I've been able to see is that the more money you spend, the better care you get. Usually, not all the time, not all for all those out there. You spend a little bit of money or no money or it's free or your friend down the street. I mean, you can get kind of whatever. You might have roaches in the crib, mold, all kind of stuff in there. You never know what's going on. I've been to quite a few babysitters, daycares, and whatnot, and really the best ones were more structured, and you got to pay some bread to be there. Then it could be very expensive, and that's a whole different problem, whole different story, and I digress, and I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? How do you feel about this story? Can you relate to this story? Have you heard stories in your personal life where your kids may have gone to a really bad daycare where that kind of thing was going on? The verbal abuse, maybe even physical abuse. Like I said, I've seen worse. I've heard about the daycare employees like actually physically touching the children inappropriately, hitting the children, abusing them that way. I've heard about a lot of different things. The kids beating each other up, kids being bullied. It's a whole big mess. And then public school, in my opinion, ain't no more than a glorified daycare, depending upon where you go. It's like the same thing. So a lot of that kind of stuff goes on. But again, when you pay your money, when you sacrifice a lot, then you often get better care. And as I said before, it's unfortunate it has to be that way. It's unfortunate. You probably got 2 hardworking parents sending their child to daycare. I'm sure they both work. That's why you have a 1-year-old in daycare. And you are going really hard to try and afford it, but it's hard. Some are going to say, well, let's socialize daycare, ABL. That's not going to make a difference because with a socialized thing and the government's in control, that's not going to be any better. We see how CPS is. Again, whole different story, and I digress. Y'all know where I'm at with it. This is really crazy, but I'm glad that parents were able to be in tune with their child and they understood what was going on. They put the recording device in there, so if there's anything that happens or whatever, it's like, okay, now we have evidence. If we got to go to court, if we have to be an advocate for other parents and their children, we can do that. So that was good on them. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.